So you're interested in what's happening on the right side of the political spectrum,
Right.
particularly among, folks who are really gung-ho for Trump.
Yeah, it's a pretty wild landscape out there right now.
It is full of, well, surprises, you could say. And that's what we are going to dig into today in this deep dive. Stuff isn't always what it seems.
That's for sure. We're seeing some serious disillusionment among some of those diehard Trump supporters, and it's playing out in ways you might not expect.
Yeah. Like this story from Alaska. This voter came out and said, basically, they regret voting for Trump.
Wow.
Yeah, they felt the pinch from stuff like, budget cuts, things that hit them where it hurts, things they didn't see coming. What do you think about that?
It's a pretty powerful anecdote, right? It shows you how personal experience can, totally shift someone's perspective.
Totally.
And there were all these discussions online, people saying, all these consequences, they were totally foreseeable if you looked at Trump's policies.
So does that make you think, is this just the tip of the iceberg? Or more people starting to, rethink their past support?
I think it's definitely something to keep an eye on, that very public display of regret. That could be a sign of a much bigger trend. Makes you wonder, right, about what info voters had and how they processed it at the time.
Yeah. And speaking of things changing, we can't ignore what's going on with Elon Musk. He's done some stuff lately that's really made waves on the right, like when he went after the UK's Reform Party and Nigel Farage.
Oh, yeah. Bold move.
It was. And some of Musk's former fans, they're feeling kind of betrayed, right?
Yeah.
Because they saw Farage as, on their side.
Yeah, it's forced people to re-examine where they think Musk actually stands politically.
And it is kind of complicated, right?
Yeah.
Some people put him in the far-right bucket, but then he does stuff like this.
Exactly. It's really interesting. It's like his political views, they don't fit in any one box.
Right.
It really shows how fluid those political alliances can be and how, it's tough to just label people with one ideology.
Yeah. And then there's the question of, well, how does all this affect his relationship with Trump?
Right.
They seem pretty tight there for a while, but now.
Yeah, you can see the tension there. It shows that maybe their political alliance isn't as strong as it seemed.
Right.
And it's going to be interesting to see what happens next, how this changes things for them and for the whole right-wing scene.
Absolutely. Now, shifting gears a bit, there's this incident in Las Vegas involving an ex-Special Forces guy. It's really unsettling, to say the least, especially with, the details that came out, like the Cybertruck, the violence, and then that manifesto where he praises Trump and Musk and slams Democrats.
Yeah, it's pretty chilling. It
Yeah.
really brings home how, what people say it can have consequences in the real world. And the manifesto, it explicitly links what this guy did to, what Trump and Musk have been saying.
Exactly.
It's a stark reminder that words have power, and we need to really think about the impact they can have, especially those coming from, influential figures.
It does make you think, what kind of effect can their words have on people who are already, struggling or maybe vulnerable?
That's a crucial question. And this situation, it forces us to think about, the responsibility that leaders have and the potential consequences of their rhetoric, especially when it comes to those who are most vulnerable. We really can't shy away from this conversation.
Couldn't agree more. And, speaking of consequences, we got to talk about the proposed cuts to veterans' benefits.
Oh, yeah.
Especially among folks who voted for Trump, because of his whole pro-military stance. Seems like there's some real anger about it.
There is. And, a lot of veterans are, they're feeling pretty betrayed by this. It just seems like, it goes against everything Trump said during his campaign.
Right, right. So how does this all tie in with this whole disillusionment thing we've been talking about?
Well, I think it shows how big the gap is between, talk and action. People are having to face the fact that maybe those promises weren't, all that genuine. Maybe they were just, a means to an end. And that feeling of being betrayed, well, it can be a powerful thing. It can make people really rethink who they support.
Yeah, it's interesting. This whole broken promises thing, it's popping up everywhere. With veterans and with some of Musk's supporters, too, especially the ones who liked what he said about American exceptionalism and free speech.
Right. Like when he said he preferred workers from India over, white Americans in tech.
Yeah.
That really rubbed some people the wrong way.
It did.
It seemed like he was, going against that America First idea that they, thought he stood for.
Exactly. Exactly. And then there are those changes to his platform's algorithm. Some say it's pushing entertainment over real discussion.
Yeah, that's definitely not helping. You have all these users who joined specifically because, they thought it was a place for free speech. And now they feel like, well, like they were lied to. The content's changing. It's not about the same values anymore.
So we're seeing this pattern, right? This broken promises thing happening over and over. Makes you wonder, is this just, I don't know, part of how right-wing politics works?
That's a tough question. I mean, broken promises happen everywhere in politics, right? But the thing is, which promises are broken and who it affects, that can tell you a lot about, what's really important to a movement and how its values are changing. And here,
Well, it seems like a lot of people feel like, like what they thought they were supporting, it's not there anymore.
right. Now, let's talk about the immigrant experience for a minute. We've seen this rise in anti-immigrant rhetoric and just, I don't know, hostility in general. And this has been going on, well, since Trump came onto the scene, really. What are you hearing from immigrants who used to support him? A lot of them, they're having a real wake-up call. It's like they're suddenly realizing that, this anti-immigrant feeling, it goes way beyond just illegal immigration, which is what, some of them might have thought it was about. Now they're facing prejudice and discrimination from the very people they used to agree with.
It's got to be tough trying to, reconcile that past support with what they're going through now.
It is. It's jarring. It's painful. It's forcing them to confront the fact that, the things they were drawn to, the rhetoric, it doesn't match up with reality. It doesn't match up with how these policies, these attitudes are actually affecting them and their communities.
This all brings us back to, the need to really think critically about what politicians are saying. Can't just take things at face value. Got to dig deeper, think about the consequences, the ones they intend and the ones they don't.
Absolutely. You need to develop those media literacy skills,
Yeah.
Be aware of how easily people can be manipulated. We got to look beyond the surface, think about the motivations, the historical context, how different groups will be affected. It's all connected.
It's like Trump's snake story, right? The one where he helps the snake and it bites him. It seems pretty relevant now.
Yeah, that's a powerful metaphor. It gets at the danger of, I don't know, blindly trusting people and the risk of being betrayed. It tells us, we need to be careful. We need to judge for ourselves, especially when it comes to powerful people.
It's a warning, almost, like watch out for those who use fear and division to get what they want.
Exactly. We need to recognize those tactics, and resist falling for them. We've got to be vigilant, spot the signs of authoritarian rhetoric, and we can't let our leaders get away with saying and doing whatever they want.
Man, there's a lot to think about here, huh? We've covered so much ground in this deep dive, from those personal stories of people feeling let down to the bigger picture of what's going on in right-wing politics.
Definitely complex stuff. And it's still changing. I think the important thing now is to step back and think about what it all means, both for the people directly affected by all of this and for the future of how we talk about politics in general.
So for our listeners out there, the ones who might be feeling, I don't know, kind of disillusioned themselves, what advice would you give them? What can they do with these feelings of being betrayed or just uncertain?
Well, I think the first thing is to, just acknowledge those feelings. Let yourself feel them. It makes sense to feel angry or confused or even betrayed when, the people or the ideas you believed in, they don't match up with your values anymore.
It's like that aha moment, right? When you suddenly realize things aren't what you thought they were.
Exactly. And that can be a really disorienting experience, but it's also a chance to grow, to look at your beliefs again, maybe find new information and talk to people who see things differently.
So it's not about throwing your values away, but more like refining them, maybe even making them stronger by, really examining them.
Exactly. It's about becoming a more informed citizen, someone who can think for themselves and make decisions based on real knowledge and understanding.
And that brings us back to, how important it is to stay informed, to be aware of what's shaping the political landscape and how it can affect our lives.
Couldn't agree more. We've got to be critical thinkers, Question the information we're given, try to see things from different angles, and we have to be aware of the tactics that people use to manipulate us. We need to resist those who want to divide us, just to get ahead.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with this thought. The future of our political world isn't set in stone. It's something we build together through how we engage, how we think critically, and how much we're willing to hold those in power accountable.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Our choices, the information we consume, the conversations we have, they all play a part in what direction we move in as a society. It's up to each of us to decide what kind of future we want to build.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this journey, everyone. We hope you've learned some things and maybe feel inspired to keep learning and engaging with the world around you.
And remember, learning is a lifelong thing. There's always something new to learn, to explore, to talk about. Stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged.